Hey there, Michael Maven here, and today I'm going to explain how we helped one of our clients take cold ads, which they were always losing money on, and we helped them to become not even break even, which was what they wanted us to do, but they became profitable, right? So on the front end, this company, they sold education products. You could just download it and you could go through the course. They had a good business, but they just couldn't get cold ads to work on the front end. Okay, so they asked us and said, listen, all we need to do is just get our advertising to break even. And if they managed to do that, they knew that the back end, would just take over later on down the line, and the customer lifetime value was high, and they would always make sales on the back end. They had a good sort of step up curriculum, and they knew that they had the back end sorted. So all we had to do was to just generate a one-to-one return, okay, break even. But in the end, we actually ended up with a 1.54 return on ad spend, and this is on the very first attempt. So today I'm just going to walk you through how we did that, okay? Now, after taking a look at what they were doing with the audience, they started off with the cold ad. They put them on a landing page where they offered a lead magnet, but the audience was just very, very cold, okay? And the email sequence used to take the prospect through some stories, but they were just random stories. There was no structure to the stories, and it was just literally the founder who had a long time ago created this email sequence, and it was just plenty of stories from his past, how he had learnt this skill and how he was able to then go on to teach it. But it didn't really these were the main problems were that there was no positioning for the company, the founder, the product, and especially, this is one that a lot of companies miss out on, the unique learning mechanism. Okay, what's unique about your business? Why should I buy from you compared to a competitor? These questions need to be answered. They are so key, they are so essential, especially in today's world where there's loads of competition, and you have to answer these questions. But this company at the start, they were just doing that all with just random stories, and it didn't make any sense to the buyer. And there was also, there's further hidden sales friction in the stories, which were no real design. That had there was no one had designed a specific customer journey. Okay, so like I said, it was just all very sort of random and just put together. The stories, they weren't readable, they weren't very easy to consume, and you have to put hooks into stories. You have to make sure that people continue reading. When they start a story, they have to really be interested in it, engage, and you've got to draw them in, and that wasn't really happening. And the other thing that was taking place is that the stories, because they weren't really building or positioning the product, and so later on they weren't they weren't really combining to help to drive a sale, and that wasn't taking place at all. It just wasn't designed very well, this sequence. And so what would happen is the prospects, they would come into a 7-day launch sequence, they would just receive all these random stories, and then at the end of that they were just introduced to this product, and of course they weren't really interested in buying because there was no setup, okay, for them to really make a purchase, and so therefore the sales were underperforming. Now, we'd seen some of their products previously, and we knew that they had a good amount of people coming through organic traffic. Okay, so people were coming to a search engine, they were typing in products maybe around search terms around the founder, around the product names, or around the search based about what these products help you to do. And so they were already warm, and they were coming into the company. They knew the founder. He's got quite a lot of publicity, and he's famous within his field. And so these people, they were coming in warm, and they already were happy to buy. Okay, but with the cold audiences, that wasn't really taking place. Okay, so we had to rebuild the email sequences that people went through when they came in cold. So here's the kind of things that we did. Okay, every time a story was told, we made sure it had a larger purpose. So if you tell a story, don't just tell a story for the sake of telling a story. Make sure it does something to further the sale. Either positions you uniquely, positions the product, positions your teaching mechanism, something like that. It has to really go and help the prospect to make a buying decision every single time, every story. Don't waste attention. Secondly, the stories, they were used to entertain, but always, like I said, to position the founder and the product positively. So no matter what you do, you always have to continue positioning multiple aspects of your product, your company, your product, how your trust aspects, always just generating, keeping that engagement by being entertaining, but at the same time mentioning your products and underlining the credibility that always goes into building the product. That's always very helpful. Company trust was carried on being built, okay, using, we had emails talking about the history of the founder and how he sort of learnt this skill, and then we also at the same time we would point to external platforms, some review platforms. We'd point to the founder had been on some places like the BBC, and he was doing radio interviews and been on magazines and newspapers. So you would combine all of this in across this email sequence and make sure that we were building trust all the time. The company also had a very unique learning method, and that was also spoken about, and we took, speaking about the differences between that unique learning method and the one that other companies were using, and we were sort of positioning ourselves above the other methods that companies used to teach, and that worked very well. Once again, the founder was, we carried on making sure that he was seen as an expert, so pointed to previous external places. He had done a Reddit AMA, and been he's very referenceable online. He's got a YouTube channel with 400,000 people, and we made sure that we incorporated all of this into the sequence of the emails. One thing we did to encourage reading also was, when we told one story, we made sure that we opened some loops, and we didn't close those loops until the next email or the one after that, so in the sequence. So like that, once you get people reading, it's a bit like a soap opera. Once you open a story, you open multiple loops, and then you always leave them wanting more. And so therefore, next time they receive your email, they always make sure that, oh, hold on, what happened next? And there's something just in their mind that next time they see your email, they will actually open it and look forward to closing that loop and seeing what happened with the multiple loops you opened last time. So we did that, and we built those in on purpose. We also continue to loop prospects through this sequence. So everything I spoke about that we just did, once one sort of sales sequence finished, we would open another one, and the prospect would slowly go through this again every single time. And so every time we build, it's like one open and closed, like sales sequence, right? So we would do that, and then previously they'd only really used one sales sequence, so they would just send a couple of emails and then introduce the product. So this time around we carried on doing that, but now prospects are continually being driven through multiple sequences like this, where you have sales sequence 1, sequence 2, sequence 3, sequence 4, and each one is an individual sales sequence, but they're all strung together. So now the prospect is going through each one, and every time you build up more positioning, you position yourself, your authority, your expertise, your credibility, and you carry on doing that every single time, so that once a prospect comes in, they always find something interesting to read. They're engaged, they're used to you, you're building, they get to know you, they like you, they trust you, and you carry on building more and more of that great good feeling, okay, just around your company, your products, and yourself. And through doing this, the prospects now, they were much more engaged, okay? Either email open rates started to rise, we could see that people were staying around and they were going through the sequences, and they really, prospects really enjoyed just reading through these email sequences. But the difference was that now, when the readers went to the sales page, they understood why they should be interested, and we kind of really drilled into the benefits of the product, and people sort of understood that now before they were ever presented with a purchasing decision. So we kind of built up the value in the prospect before they were ever asked to buy. So it's almost like you're sort of building up that tension. That you have to be a master at generating buying tension. And if you're able to do that, then you can drive sales really of any product, because you know how to create that tension. That's exactly what sales is. Sales is all about creating buying tension within the mind of a buyer, a prospect, okay, a customer. You have to know how to do that, and it's a true skill, I would say, which you get to learn that as the more and more you get used to looking at sales sequences like this and building and designing them. There was, I mean, there was also, we managed to grow sales through removing many more areas of sales friction, but this is just one area of work that we carried out, and we actually do have a lovely testimonial from the CEO saying that this the work we've done together with them is going to drive millions of dollars in sales and future revenue. So it was a really great outcome all in all.